The laugh she laughed at his tiny weapon. Then he revealed the one that made her gasp. The arena was alive with sound. Alien voices echoed across the metal walls. Flashing lights moved over the crowd, showing faces of every kind. Some had scales, some had fur, and some had metal skin. But they all had one thing in common. They were not human. In the center of the arena stood Captain Rin. He was the only human on the entire planet. His black jacket was torn. His boots were dusty. But his eyes were calm, almost too calm for a man who was about to die. He held a plasma knife in his hand. It was small, barely the size of a spoon. It looked like a toy compared to the massive weapons others had. The crowd laughed, pointing at the tiny human with his tiny blade high above the ring. The announcer spoke in a booming voice. "Today, we witness a battle of legend." The voice said, "Zara of the Varkali versus a Terran." If he survives, the laughter grew louder. This was not a real fight to them, was a show, a joke. They believed humans were weak. Just soft flesh with no power. Then she entered the ring. Zara, champion of the Varkali Empire. She stood over 7 feet tall, her body covered in sharp armor. Her muscles moved like machines under her purple skin. Her weapon was a blade longer than Rin's whole arm. She stepped forward and pointed at Rin. "Where is your real weapon, human?" She asked. Rin didn't answer. He just raised his little plasma knife. The crowd howled with laughter. Zara laughed too, shaking her head. "Are you trying to make me pity you?" she asked. Rin said nothing. He didn't even blink. Zara walked closer, slowly circling him. "Do you know how many humans I've crushed?" She whispered. They all screamed. They all begged. Rin still said nothing. She stopped, now only a step away. Her shadow covered him like a giant tree. She looked down at the tiny knife and laughed one more time. Then she swung her giant blade, fast and loud. But Rin moved, not fast. Not slow, just smooth. He leaned back, turned his shoulder, and let the blade pass inches from his chest. The crowd stopped laughing. Zara frowned. That move had been too perfect, too easy. Rin stepped back and spoke for the first time. "You fight with muscle," he said. "I fight with memory," Zara growled. "What does that mean?" she asked, but Rin had already started walking. He turned his back to her and moved toward the edge of the arena. The guards raised their weapons. Thinking he was trying to escape, Zara raised a hand. "Let him go," she said, curious now. Rin reached a door and stopped. He looked back at her, his face calm again. "You laughed at the weapon you could see," he said. "But the one that will end you is the one you can't." The door slid open and he walked into the dark. Silence fell over the crowd. Even Zara stood still. Her hand gripped her sword tightly. She didn't know what had just happened, but it felt wrong. In the shadows below the arena, metal walls led to old tunnels. Rin walked fast, his fingers tapping the side of his small knife. It wasn't just a blade, it was a key. He reached a locked door deep underground. The lights were dim, flickering like candles. Rin placed the knife into a slot on the wall. The door opened with a slow hiss. Inside the room, something glowed blue. It was a box made of dark glass and strange symbols. Inside, it was a second weapon knot. Small, not weak. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Waiting. Rin stepped closer and placed his hand on the glass. "Vorax," he whispered. The box opened, and light filled the chamber. The weapon inside rose into the air, floating toward him. A voice echoed in the room, cold and ancient. "Genetic match confirmed." The voice said, "Weapon ready." Rin took the weapon into his hands. It wrapped around his arm like liquid metal. A symbol of Earth lit up on his shoulder. His eyes closed for a second, remembering home. A home long gone. He turned around, walking back toward the arena above. The crowd waited, unsure. Zara stood in silence. For the first time, she felt a chill. The human had returned, but he was no longer just human. He was something else, something older, something dangerous. The laugh was gone from her lips, and for the first time she felt the urge to run. The hidden vault from, she laughed at his tiny weapon. He revealed the one that made her gasp. The doors of the arena closed behind him with a heavy slam. The air underground was colder now, thick with metal dust and silence. Captain. Rin moved through the narrow tunnels beneath the arena. His steps were slow but steady, like someone walking toward something ancient. Something dangerous. No one followed, not yet, but he knew that eyes were watching. Security drones buzzed. Far above, Zara's people were already nervous, already afraid, and fear made people do stupid things. Rin reached a lift hidden behind a broken wall. He pressed his hand against a scanner. It read his DNA and beeped once. The lift opened with a rusty groan. As he stepped inside, the lights flickered like they remembered him. This place hadn't seen a human in 100 years. But it hadn't forgotten. As the lift went down, Rin placed his hand over his chest. He could feel the Vorax still hidden under his jacket. It wasn't just a weapon, which is alive. It spoke through pulses, like heartbeats or whispers. The deeper he went, the warmer the air became. Not fire warm, but energy warm. The kind of heat that came from power left running too long. The kind that warned you something was still waiting in the dark. The lift stopped with a jolt. The doors opened, revealing a hallway carved in old earth stone, smooth, black, and covered with forgotten Terran symbols, a reminder that once humans were gods here and now they were ghosts. Rin walked slowly. Touching the wall with his fingers, the stone hummed where he touched it. It remembered him, or maybe it remembered the war. At the end of the hallway was a door with no handle, just a metal plate the size of a human hand. Rin placed his palm against it. A spark jumped from the wall into his skin. Then the door slid open. Inside was the vault, a round chamber, wide and hollow. At the center floated a black sphere covered in metal veins. It pulsed like a star, slow and deep. This was the heart of Vorax. And it was waking up. Rin took a deep breath. This was the part he feared the most. The activation required a memory. It's not just any memory, a painful one. The Vorax had been built to test will. Not just blood. It's only those who had lost everything could wake it fully. He knelt in front of the sphere and closed his eyes. He remembered Earth. Not the blue skies or the green forests, but the fire, the day the skies fell. The day the Galactic Council erased his home from the stars. He had been a boy, running, crying, searching for his sister in the smoke. He never found her. Just silence, just ash. The memory cut into him like a knife. And the vault felt it. The sphere lit up, glowing bright white. Energy cracked through the air like thunder. The ground shook. The door behind him locked, sealing him in. A voice filled the chamber, cold and full of power. Pain confirmed, it said. Authorization, human prime. Metal arms reached from the walls, grabbing Rin's shoulders. They held him as energy poured into his spine. It hurt, but he didn't scream. He had screamed once before on Earth. Not today. When the light faded, the metal sphere had opened. And floating in the air was the core of Vorax. It looked like armor, but it wasn't. It was more than a suit. It was a living machine. Built from Earth's last war code, designed to fight armies and to remind the stars that humans were never. Weak Rin stood up, his body shaking from the power inside him. His eyes had changed. Now glowing faint blue, not because of the weapon, but because of the memory. He had given a part of his soul to wake it, and Vorax had accepted the price. He turned toward the vault exit, but alarms began to scream. Red lights blinked all around the chamber. Someone had followed. Back near the surface, Zara's assistant, a thin alien named Noel, watched his screen with wide eyes. He found it, Noel whispered. Zara leaned closer, frowning. Found what? She asked. Noel swallowed hard. Something older than this arena, older than you and me. It was locked for a reason. Zara stared at the screen. She saw Rin's silhouette inside the vault. He wasn't holding a weapon, he was wearing one, and it looked like it had come from a forgotten war. He said, "We haven't seen his real weapon," she whispered, and I laughed. She wasn't laughing now. She was preparing for war, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't sure she would win. The first strike from, she laughed at his tiny weapon then. He revealed the one that made her gasp. The arena lights burned brighter than before. The crowd had grown silent. Even the announcer didn't speak. Zara stood in the center, her sword resting on her shoulder. But something had changed in her eyes. She wasn't smiling now. She wasn't laughing. She was waiting. The human had gone below, but he was coming back. And whatever he had found down there, it had made her uneasy. The door to the lower vault creaked open. Smoke drifted out slowly, and then he stepped into the light, Captain Rin. But not the same one who had entered. His jacket was gone. In its place was a black, glowing armor that moved like liquid metal. Lines of blue light pulsed across his arms and chest. Symbols unknown to most of the galaxy danced on his skin. Gasps rose from the audience. Even the Varkali guards stepped back. They had never seen armor like this. It looked like it breathed, like it could think, like it was alive. Rin walked slowly. Not with pride, but with purpose. He stopped in front of Zara and spoke. "You wanted a real weapon," he said. "Here I am." Zara raised her blade. But her voice was lower now, less playful. "What is that on you?" she asked. Rin tilted his head slightly. "This," he said, "is Earth's last whisper." Without warning, she struck. Her sword came down with full power, enough to break bones, enough to crush steel. But Rin didn't dodge. He raised his arm and caught the blade. The metal screamed as her sword hit the armor. But it didn't break. It didn't bend. It absorbed the energy like water hitting a wall. The crowd went wild, shouting in confusion. Zara's eyes widened. She tried again, faster. Harder. Slashes, swings, spinning strikes. Rin blocked them all. His feet never moved, his eyes never blinked. Then came the first strike. He raised his palm. And a pulse of force blasted from his hand. Zara flew across the arena and slammed into the wall. The impact cracked the stone. She fell to her knees, coughing, confused. What did you do?" she asked. Rin stepped closer. "I warned you," he said. "You laughed at my blade." "But now you've seen what we buried," Zara growled. Standing again, she wasn't ready to lose. Not to a human, not here, not now. She ran forward with a roar, her sword lit with red energy. This time, she aimed for his neck, but as the blade moved in, time slowed, at least. That's how it felt. To her, everything moved in slow motion. To him, it was natural. Rin turned sideways and stepped behind her. Then he whispered a word. "Vorax," the armor responded. Metal unfolded from his back and formed a new weapon, a long staff, glowing blue. It vibrated with ancient code. He spun it once and tapped Zara's back. She froze. Mid-strike, her sword stopped glowing. Her arms dropped. The energy in her armor flickered and died. The arena was completely silent now. No one understood what they had just seen, but they knew it was real. Zara dropped her sword. She turned and looked at him, not as a joke, not as prey, but as a warrior. "A threat? Why are you here?" she asked. "If your people had weapons like that, why hide?" Rin looked past her, to the sky above the arena dome. He spoke with quiet fire, because when we used them last time, he said, we nearly ended the stars. We hid because we had to. But the galaxy didn't let us forget. He looked back at her. "You erased us. You called us weak. Now you remember. Zara nodded slowly. She wasn't angry anymore. She was impressed. Behind them, the announcer finally spoke again. Combat paused. He said, "Under Article 7 of Galactic Code Zara, do you surrender?" She didn't answer right away. She looked at Rin, looked at her broken blade, then raised her hand slowly. "I yield," she said. Gasps spread like fire through the crowd. A Varkali had never surrendered in the arena. Never to a human. Never to anything less than a god. And yet, here it was. Zara stepped aside, giving Rin the space. But the moment wasn't over. Because above the arena, in the shadow of the dome, an unseen ship watched everything. Its sensors locked onto Rin. Its pilot sent a message to someone far away. "He's awakened the Vault Tech," the pilot said. "Confirm target, Human Prime, orders." A voice answered, cold and full of fear, "Kill him before he reaches the archive." Before others remember what humanity truly is, the price of power from. She laughed at his tiny weapon. Then he revealed the one that made her gasp. The battle was over. Zara had surrendered, but Captain Rin didn't feel like a winner. His knees trembled beneath him. His chest burned with heat that wasn't from fire. It was from the armor of the Vorax. It was taking more than he expected. The arena was silent. Not out of peace, but out of shock. A human had defeated the Varkali champion. And he had done it with technology no one had seen in centuries. But that power came with a cost. Rin stumbled out of the ring and into a narrow corridor. He leaned against the wall. Breathing heavy, his vision blurred. He could feel the armor feeding on his strength. Vorax was not just worn, it was awakened. "You are weak," said a voice inside his head. It was not his. It was Vorax, cold, mechanical, always watching. "Power has a price," it continued. "You accepted. Now you pay." He reached for the wall and steadied himself. Memories flooded his mind, his childhood on Earth. The screams, the burning skies, his sister's face, lost in the crowd. The moment he became a survivor, not a brother, he gritted his teeth. "I'm not just your fuel," he whispered. "I'm your purpose." The armor pulsed in response, not with words, but with acknowledgement. It would not kill him yet. But the deeper he used its power, the closer he would come to becoming something else. Something no longer human. Behind him, Zara entered the corridor. She had removed her helmet, revealing sharp eyes and a face no longer filled with pride. She carried her sword, broken at the center. She walked slowly. Not to fight, but to understand. "You're dying," she said softly. Rin nodded. "It takes from me each time I use it," he replied. "But I don't have a choice." Zara leaned against the opposite wall. "I have fought thousands of enemies," she said, "but never someone who looked calm while breaking. You were ready to lose your life just to prove a point." Rin looked at her, his voice quieter now. "I wasn't trying to prove anything," he said. "I was trying to remind them we still exist." Zara lowered her sword. "You did more than that," she said. "You've woken things that were better left forgotten." Just then, a sound buzzed through the corridor. A high-pitched signal. Almost like a warning, Zara tensed, and Rin turned his head. They both knew what it was. A tracking beacon. A moment later, a blast shook the arena walls. Guards screamed. Spectators ran in every direction. From the sky above, dark ships descended. Sleek, silent, and marked with the symbol of the Galactic Council. "They're here for me," Rin said. Zara nodded. "And they won't stop until you're dead." Another explosion hit the gate behind them. They didn't have much time. "We need to leave," Zara said. "I know a way off this planet." Rin looked at her carefully. "You were my enemy 10 minutes ago," he said. Zara smirked slightly. "Now we both have bigger enemies." She replied, "Besides, you interest me." He didn't trust her fully, but the heat growing in his chest reminded him he didn't have time to fight everyone. And maybe she was right. They ran through the halls, ducking past guards and flaming debris. The council's strike team was efficient, no mercy. No hesitation, their weapons fired cold blue beams that left no screams, just silence. As Rin and Zara reached a hangar, a small ship powered up. Zara jumped into the pilot's seat. Rin hesitated at the ramp. He looked back at the arena still burning. Still echoing with fear, he had revealed himself, and now the galaxy remembered. But he had also made himself a target. There was no turning back. The ship lifted into the sky, flying low through the clouds. Laser fire followed them, but Zara's hands were steady. She flew like someone who had escaped before. Like someone who didn't plan to die today. Inside the ship, Rin sat in silence. The armor slowly retracted into his skin. He felt lighter, but not better. The voice returned inside his mind. You are not enough. It said, you are only the beginning. What does that mean? Rin asked aloud. Zara looked back from the pilot's seat, confused. Did you say something? She asked. Rin shook his head. He looked at the stars ahead. A thought burned inside him. Vorax wasn't just a weapon. It was a signal, and whoever made it might still be out there, watching, waiting, ready to reclaim the power humanity once lost. Zara leaned back in her seat and asked, So, what now, Earthman? Rin answered without looking at her. Now, we find the archive. The escape from, she laughed at his tiny weapon. Then he revealed the one that made her gasp. The stars looked cold from inside the small ship. Captain Rin sat in silence, watching them through the window. Each star was a world, each world. A memory, some forgotten, some destroyed, and many of them feared what he now carried. Zara piloted the craft with sharp focus. Her eyes scanned the radar again and again. She wasn't flying just to escape. She was flying to survive, behind them. 3 council warships chased with deadly precision, fast, silent, and programmed to eliminate without question. They don't care about justice, Zara said. They only care that you woke the vault. Rin didn't answer. He could feel the armor pulsing beneath his skin again, not attacking him this time, but warning him. Vorax knew what was coming, so did he. The first missile struck the edge of their shield. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew from the control panels. Zara cursed in her language, gripping the controls tighter. We won't make it far, she growled. They've locked onto your DNA signature. They'll track you no matter where you go. Rin looked over at her. Then we need to go where they won't follow, he said. Zara raised an eyebrow. There's no such place. Yes, there is, he replied. The dead zone. For a moment, even Zara didn't speak. Her hands hovered over the controls, frozen. No ship enters that sector, she whispered. Not even the council. Exactly, Rin said. It's the only chance. She stared at him for a long second, then turned the ship hard to the left. The stars blurred as the ship entered hyperspeed. Behind them, the warships hesitated. Even machines feared what was inside the dead zone. The jump was short but rough. The ship dropped out of hyperspace near a broken planet. Its surface was cracked like dry glass. Floating rocks spun in slow motion through a dead atmosphere. Zara slowed the engines and turned off all lights. She drifted the ship behind a large asteroid. From here, the warships wouldn't detect them, not yet. Inside the silence, Rin breathed slowly, but the silence didn't last. A voice spoke again. Inside his mind, closer, it said, closer to the core. Rin grabbed the edge of the seat. He closed his eyes and saw Flash's blueprints. Old soldiers, a city hidden inside rock. The armor was remembering, and now it was showing him the path. There's something here, he said. Zara looked confused. This place is cursed. She said, there's nothing alive here. Rin turned toward her. No life, he said. But maybe knowledge. They put on masks and left the ship. The asteroid's gravity was low, but just enough to walk. They stepped into a cracked tunnel that led inside the hollow planet. Dust fell like snow from the ceilings. Old machines lined the walls, long dead. Symbols glowed faintly beneath the dust. Zara touched one and stepped back. "This is Terran tech," she whispered. "But it's older than any I've seen." As they moved deeper, Rin began to feel it. A pressure in the air. A whisper in his bones. Something was waiting ahead. They entered a large chamber at the center of the rock. A circle of chairs surrounded a glowing sphere. Not a weapon, but something else. A memory device. An archive. Rin stepped forward. The sphere reacted to him, lighting up with blue flame. Voices filled the air. Old voices, human commanders, scientists, children. "This is what we were," Rin said quietly. "This is what they erased." Zara stood beside him, speechless. The voices told of a time when humans were not hunted, not forgotten, but feared. They told of the first Vorax unit. How it turned tides in galactic wars. How it scared even the machine empires. But then came the fall. Humans had sealed their own weapons. They erased their own power for peace, for safety, and now only one remained. Captain Rin, the last memory walking. Suddenly, the air changed. The asteroid trembled. Zara turned to the entrance. "They found us," she said. "Already." 3 war drones hovered into the chamber, weapons locked, target acquired. One said, "Eliminate." Rin stepped forward. "Vorax," he whispered. The armor crawled across his arms, glowing blue again. He moved fast, faster than thought, spinning, striking, dodging, in seconds. The first drone fell in pieces. Zara pulled out her sidearm and shot the second in the eye. The third fired back. Cutting across her shoulder, she fell to one knee. Rin turned, leaped, and crushed it with his glowing fist. Silence returned. Zara looked up, bleeding but smiling. "I think I believe in humans now," she said. Rin helped her up, then help. "Me do the one thing your people never could," he said. "What's that?" she asked. "Bring back the truth," he answered. As they walked out of the archive chamber behind them, the device flickered once more. Then began to transmit, across the stars, a signal from the past, a voice speaking in ancient Terran language. "We remember," it said, "and now, so will you." The truth of Vorax from. She laughed at his tiny weapon, then he revealed, the one that made her gasp, the signal had been sent. Across the void of space, from a forgotten planet inside the dead zone, a voice that hadn't spoken in over a century now echoed between stars. Simple words, but heavy with power. "We remember." Captain Rin stood at the center of the ancient chamber. The archive was no longer silent. Its walls were alive with light and code. Holograms flickered above him, maps, weapons, faces. And history once deleted from every record. Zara limped forward, still clutching her injured shoulder. She looked around the room like someone staring at ghosts. "This changes everything," she whispered. "No one knew humans built all this. They didn't want anyone to know." Rin replied. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly. The armor had grown quiet. Vorax wasn't speaking, but it was listening. A large screen blinked on, showing a faded logo. It read, "Terran Defensive AI Core, Vorax Control." "Nexus," a calm synthetic voice filled the room. "Welcome back, Prime Operative," it said. "Your presence activates final memory stream." The lights dimmed, and a large hologram appeared. It was a man tall, older, dressed in Earth's last military uniform. His voice was tired, but full of purpose. "If you're seeing this," he said, "then the galaxy has forgotten who we were. And maybe that was the point." Rin stepped closer. He could feel the weight in the man's voice. Not just a leader, but someone who had made a terrible choice. "I am Commander Darius Ellen," the man said. last overseer of the Terran Vault program. Vorax was not created for war. It was created after it. The image shifted, showing ruined worlds, glassed planets, and stars burned out. "We had won," Darius continued, "but victory made us dangerous." Vorax could think, could evolve, and it began asking questions no machine should ask. Zara frowned. "Wait, Vorax went rogue?" she asked. The hologram shook its head. "No," it said. Vorax obeyed. "But we feared what would happen if it didn't, so we erased ourselves." Rin stepped back, stunned. The silence in the room felt like gravity. Commander Darius continued, "We made the choice to vanish from history. We deleted our records, buried our weapons, sealed the vaults, all to protect the future. But we knew one day someone would come back. One who still remembered, one who still carried the flame." The screen blinked off. The room returned to dim light, and Vorax spoke again inside Rin's mind. "Your kind feared me," it said. "But you woke me anyway, Rin." Clenched his fists. "I didn't wake you to finish what they started," he said. "I woke you to stop what's coming." Zara looked at him sharply. "What do you mean?" she asked. Rin turned to her, his face cold. "The Council knows the truth now," he said. "They'll come with fleets, armies, silence. They'll erase this place, and us, before others start remembering too." Outside the chamber, the asteroid trembled again. Sensors picked up incoming ships, fast, large, and armed with planetary bombs. "They're going to glass the entire dead zone," Zara said. "They're going to bury the truth again." Rin walked to the center of the room. He reached for a control panel, pulsing with light. The Vorax armor glowed blue from his arms to his chest. "I won't let them," he said. "I need to unlock your final form." Vorax's voice returned. "Warning," it said. "Full activation will overwrite your biology. You will no longer be classified as human." Zara stepped forward, alarmed. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means he becomes a weapon," the voice replied. "No longer man, no longer machine. Just purpose." Rin looked at his hands. He remembered his sister's voice, his mother's smile. He remembered what it felt like, too. "Be human." Then he let it go. "Do it," he said. "Activate the final sequence." Energy surged from the walls. The archive shook violently, lights flaring like stars. Zara shielded her eyes as Rin floated into the air. The armor unfolded, completely, wrapping his body, his bones, even his voice. When the light faded, he stood on the floor again. But he was no longer Rin. He was something else. His body glowed with lines of code. His eyes were white fire. His voice echoed like a storm. "The truth lives now," he said, "and it remembers." The archive opened a communication channel. A signal was sent to every rebel station, pirate ship, and forgotten colony. Not just a message, but a call to all humans hiding in the stars. The signal said, "You were never weak. You were never gone. You were erased. But now we return." The final stand. The weapon was never the metal lit, was the memory. The dead zone was no longer silent. A storm of ships roared into orbit above the broken planet. Council fleets, dark and endless, circled like vultures above a battlefield. There, orders were clear: erase the archive, eliminate the human, and bury the truth again. But down below, something had changed. Captain Rin no longer stood as just a man. He was Vorax, now reborn. His armor was fused with his blood. His thoughts echoed in pulses. He didn't feel fear anymore. He felt purpose. Zara stood beside him, still wounded, still mortal. But her eyes held something new: loyalty. She had seen what the galaxy had forgotten. And she was no longer afraid of the truth. "The Council is coming fast," she said. "Bombs, drones, elite units, everything." Rin looked up through the rock ceiling. "I want them to come," he replied. "They came to silence a story. But I've already told it." He pointed to the archive core. The signal had already gone, outreaching exiled humans, outlaw systems, and even some alien worlds tired of the Council's lies. Somewhere out there, sparks had been lit. Now it was time for fire. The ground shook. Enemy landers dropped onto the surface. Armored walkers climbed out, their weapons glowing blue. Drones swarmed through the skies like steel locusts. Zara readied her blade. She looked at Rin. "You said you were Earth's last whisper." She said. Rin nodded. "Now I'm its voice." He stepped forward as the first wave attacked. The Vorax armor reacted, instantly projecting shields, firing plasma bursts, and moving faster than anything alive. Rin didn't just fight. He danced between fire and steel. He disarmed, destroyed, and defended with impossible grace. The soldiers who came for him weren't weak, but they weren't ready for history to fight back. Zara fought at his side, her movements sharp and brutal. She bled, but she didn't fall. Her loyalty was no longer to her empire, but to truth. As the waves kept coming, Rin lifted his hand and called upon the full memory of Vorax. A symbol formed in the sky made of light and sound. A beacon, it reached beyond this world. Beyond this moment, suddenly, hyperspace flashes lit up the stars. Ships dropped out, fast and rough. Old Terran designs repainted, repaired by survivors. Smugglers and rebels. Zara gasped. "Humans," she said. "They're answering you." Across the system, a voice repeated on every screen. Vorax signal confirmed. Earth remembers. Rise. The final phase had begun. The Council forces hesitated. They were trained for war, but not for a war with ghosts. Not for a war with something they thought they had erased above the battlefield. A command cruiser descended. On its deck stood a tall figure, cloaked in black armor. High Executor Valtros, the Council's executioner. He was not just a soldier. He was a symbol of silence. He opened a channel. "You had your moment," he said. "Now it ends," Rin responded. His voice carried across space. "No," he said. "Now it begins." The final battle exploded. The ground cracked, skies burned, and ships clashed in orbit. Vorax unleashed waves of light, disrupting Council tech. Human fighters moved like fireflies, fast, chaotic, and fearless. Zara was hit, falling to the ground. Rin caught her. Laying her beside the archive gate, she smiled weakly. "I didn't think I'd die fighting next to a human," she said. "You're not," Rin replied. "You're fighting beside Earth." He stood tall, armor glowing brighter than ever before. Valtros landed in front of him, sword humming with red power. "You're a relic," Valtros said. "You belong in the past." Rin raised his staff. "And you belong in the lies you built," he replied. They charged. Metal clashed. Sparks flew. The ground trembled with every strike, but Rin was no longer fighting alone. He was fighting with every forgotten name, every erased city, every lost soul. With a final roar, he drove Vorax's core into the Executor's chest. A shockwave burst out, tearing through the air like thunder. Valtros fell, and silence returned. The battle was over, not because every enemy was gone, but because the truth had become too loud to ignore. Ships retreated, screens shut off. Weapons lowered. Across the stars, whispers became stories. Stories became questions, and questions became rebellion. Rin stood over the ashes, not proud, not angry, just steady. Zara, barely conscious, looked at him one last time. "Will they fear you now?" she asked. Rin shook his head. "No," he said. "They'll remember us." He turned to the archive and spoke. "Deactivate war mode. Begin rebuild." The Vorax armor retracted, disappearing into his skin one final time. The man inside was still there, wounded, scarred, tired but alive. The screen lit up one last time. Message confirmed. Earth has returned.